Hello and welcome to episode 10 of Animediate, our strongest attack yet. Here we're talking about One Punch Man, the show about the hero for fun, Saitama, who is in fact too strong. He beats everything in one punch, as the name would suggest, and as a result, he's gotten really bored. So we went away and all watched it, and I would like to get your opinions. What do you guys think?
We watched the first season, right?
Yeah.
There's two, I want to say, and they're planning on making more.
Yeah,
right?
it's an ongoing web novel. That is the same guy who did fucking Mob Psycho is involved in like the process of this existing somehow. I think he's one of the artists on the manga version. But yeah, there's an interesting story how this came to be. It starts off as like this really I don't want to say bad, but kind of very cartoony scratchy drawings kind of web novel, right? That then gets redrawn in the most impressive manga artwork ever, and then gets adapted into the most fucking hype anime show. It's quite interesting. Season 2, I'll be honest, kind of drops the ball a bit. They changed production companies or whatever, but it's still got the comedy is still there in season 2. It's just it looks a lot worse.
Is it more of the same then? Is that why it's, I guess, kind of drops the ball?
I think it's more that they did not get all the talent they had in season 1, because it's like a real all star showing of famous animators. So famous, in fact, I know none of their names. Who worked on season 1, and season 2 is just kind of they just sort of made it at the end of the day. It's not, doesn't have as much pizzazz, but it's still got good moments in there. I think it, if you really like the premise and the characters, I think season 2 is still worth watching. But we're picking season 1 because there are parts where he punches things really hard, and the enemies explode into millions of tiny giblets, each rendered in loving detail. That's why this show is a 10 out of 10.
10
so
out of 10 giblets.
I do. Jonathan?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, mostly just...
Yeah, it's a 10 out of 10.
Tony there. I do not agree that
great
it's a 10
podcast.
out of 10. Because I need more than giblets to entertain me. It was something that kind of washed over me, really. It was... I mean, maybe the first few might have impressed upon me a little, but after a while of One Punch, it does... It's diminishing returns on those sorts of animations. And I think my favourite moments, really, of the animations would be the moments where it plays around with it a bit more. So I don't know, just in the final episode, there's a, I think it's a fairly infamous line where One Punch Man just says no, and he's got this weird kind of shading effect on his face as he does that, and that's one of the great animation moments to me, because it's funny and expressive, and to me a lot more interesting than he's punched a guy again.
Yeah, he's punched a guy once and he died. How about that? How's them apples? But yeah, no, I do agree with Jono. I think a lot of the strength of One Punch Man comes from Saitama's character design, because he is in this world of heroes and villains that are all way cooler than him. And the joke is that he is just the strongest guy walking around with these this yellow jumpsuit white cape, red, like, sink gloves.
Yeah, it is mad how they make him look both so janky and terrible in his costume, and also they can just flip a switch on the animation to make him look heroic and like the epitome of what a superhero would be, without.
Mhm.
I can't put my finger on what they do exactly between the moments where he's looking sort of powerless and goofy in his uniform and when he's looking like the ultimate being. Like yeah, it's very well animated, especially around him, sort of switching him fairly seamlessly between goofy and powerful.
You know, I think he just has such a unique personality as well when it comes to anime, because he is very laid back for a main character. He's pretty much like the straight man of the show. You know, he's the one that's sort of all these ridiculous heroes, you know, with their over the top fucking shenanigans. Forget what his name is, but there's that one hero that's like the Snake Viper guy who's like taking himself too seriously. Like he'd be your, standard main character affair, but One Punch Man's just there. He's straight vibing at this point, which is what I like about him. He's a good contrast to this wider hero world.
Yeah, I like Saitama, and I actually really like the chemistry that he has with Genos or Genos or whatever he's called. I think as a duo,
Genos, yes.
yeah, those two do work together quite well. I think because their personalities are so different, but the fact that they've kind of been, I guess, pitted together as a duo because. Well, mostly because Genos just wants a master who's better than him, someone to teach him. I think that dynamic between those two really, really does work and does allow for a lot of great comedy. I mean, I guess the funniest thing that ever happens between them is that Saitama is obviously the best superhero in terms of strength, in terms of just how effective he is, because he can take everyone down in one punch. But he's the Class C hero, whereas Genos is the Class S hero. So his master is technically, well, officially, to the Hero Association anyway, not as good as he is. And things like that I think are quite funny. I actually, because they don't introduce it at the start, but like around episode 4 or 5, when they introduce the fact that there's like a ranking system in the heroes, I was originally like, oh my god, I hate this idea. This is definitely not why I didn't want some like bureaucratic bullshit in this show where it's all going to be about trying to get to the top of the ranking. But they actually do a really good job making things. I think making things still fun because it's almost like my opinion was basically okay. Well, you're going to do this, then you're going to have to go all the way with it. And then they do, because pretty much like 80% of the dialogue for the rest of the show is just people talking about what class they are, who's lower than who's higher than who, and other things that come along with that. And I really like how far they went with that, because for something that felt like it was going to be a background thing, it actually ends up becoming really important. This association of heroes. You've got the Class S tier at the top, and I do like what they did with that when I originally thought I wasn't at all.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, I agree with
that.
Ethan on that, in that I initially, where it was kind of heading there, was like, I don't think I'm going to enjoy this so much. And then it actually ended up being, to me, the strongest element of the show and the plot, really, is, at least for me, is the... because... The problem it runs into with the fact that One Punch Man is like all powerful is that there's no stakes, definitely not in any like combat scene at all, and so it just can feel a lot very flat all the time. And what the kind of Hero Guild throws into it is this thing where he can't win by just punching everything really hard. He's got this PR game to play. He's got to find the crime. It changes it up to a bit where he's no longer, like, it adds a level of stakes. And to me, the most interesting moment is after he's taken out the like King of the Sea or whatever, and there's someone in the audience like stirring up shit, trying to like downplay all of the heroes, and because he's begun to like appreciate Genos, he then realizes that I need to kind of almost like not accept the success on this one. I need to play it off as I'm a C rank that steals everyone's glory, so they don't get mad at my S tier friend who's over there missing all of his robot moves.
It's like the end of the Dark Knight, you know, when Batman takes on having killed Harvey Dent, you know, so he can remain a hero. So it really is like Batman.
Yeah, that's the most interesting bit to me, is him sort of having to play around with that. I don't think they go hard enough into that at all, really, and definitely for the final few episodes, it just becomes a big thing they've got to punch a few times, and it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't really.
It's a very big thing, and they punch it really hard, Jono. I think you do bring up something though, that with the hero association, this show has a great extended cast as well. Like I don't know how much you see of them all in the first season versus second season, but there are so many that are just really like funny. Like fucking Moomin Rider, right? Is like
he's probably my favourite character.
Moomin Rider, yeah, he's great.
He's the perfect like foil or mirror, one of the two, to fucking the main character, where he is the low ranking C tier hero who is out there giving it his all, and the fact that he is just like completely useless because his powers consist of having a bicycle, you know, that's it. There's the great like dramatic moment where you really want to fucking root for fucking Moomin Rider going up against the Sea King, you know, like the entire crowd is just cheering him on, but it just cuts to the fact that like, no, this guy is just weak. And there's a lot of other great ones.
In that fight scene you mentioned there, Tony, it is kind of important, because Johnny said earlier that there aren't any stakes, but I would disagree, because especially in the Sea King kind of mini arc, the whole stakes are getting Saitama to the Sea King before he kind of kills everyone, and it's kind of seeing these kind of lesser heroes go up against him. I feel, and the crowd kind of being in danger. You do definitely feel that, and I think that scene where Moomin Rider kind of stands up. I think it's
very heroic.
It is, and like there are genuine stakes at that point, because it's like we know that Saitama is going to come and beat him in one punch, but it's kind of fearing for the amount of time that's going to take to happen.
It is interesting how like in that moment, like he is more of a hero because he's like putting his life on the line. He's like standing up against impossible odds, you know, compared to Saitama. He just shows up, one punch, done. And I do like that they have a good like fucking bromance going on. It's good to see. I love what is it? The guy who just has a metal bat and is like a fucking proper gangster type. Hits things with a metal bat really hard. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh god, who is that character?
He's one of the
sound familiar.
S rank heroes. He's the first person to realize that the weird clay monster, like its life force is the power core, you know, whatever.
Yeah,
he's got a core. Yes.
I would agree with what Harry said about there being stakes in those fights, because it's about protecting the city, it's about protecting the civilians, and that does mean something, even if the city even if these cities seem to have monsters totaling them out every week or so. But I also think I'm really on Jonathan's side about the whole thing. To me, I've not watched that much anime, but to me it feels like what it's riffing on is the whole well, there's so much anime out there where the main character is basically this unstoppable force. So what we're going to do is we're going to write a character that's an unstoppable force, but at the same time we're going to basically look into the psychology of that as well, and basically have a character who, because he's unstoppable, is basically bored with life, doesn't have a challenge anymore. He's kind of lazy, and he basically thinks that he's unbeatable. But then the problem that I think the show that has that is that they just don't explore that enough.
Yeah.
Like in the first episode, there's a lot of it with, he's kind of walking around, facing different enemies. They're these massive, great big things, these monsters, and they're so arrogant in how amazing they are. And they're like, oh, you're going to fight me? Look how small you are, stuff like that. And he knocks them out in one punch and he walks on. And, I like those moments like that because they just remind you how these monsters look massive, but they are so fragile to Saitama. But then after episode 1, even though I do find the fights fun, even though I really do like Saitama coming in at the last second, hitting a guy down, and then that's it, that's the end of the fight, even though I do like that, I feel like they don't take that mentality far enough, they don't explore enough what it means to be someone who basically can't be beaten. Actually, in the finale, it almost looks like he might have met his foe, but then you kind of realise that he was always going to win the fight in the first place.
I think that's a good thing to bring up the final fight, is because he is essentially meeting like another version of himself, that is like this being that is like fucking has monstrous power and is just desperate to find an equal. And there's a great cinematic parallel where in the first episode Saitama has a dream where he has met a powerful foe, and there's this one shot where you see his heartbeat pulse. He's got his fucking will to live back, and that's the same thing. Boris, who's the villain, does the same thing in that fight. He has this moment where he's like, yeah, finally I can go all out, which is what Saitama's been looking for. And it's almost kind of sad, the moment at the end where Boris is where Saitama knows that he says to Boris, is oh yeah, that was a good fight. Boris calls him out on it. He says, liar, you were holding back, I could tell. Which is, I think it's kind of there's kind of something sad there where he, he sees that he's like him. It's okay, well, I'll hold back a bit, give him a little bit of I don't know, joy before he kill him in one punch.
Can I just say though, if he'd been more lucky with his shot where he knocked Saitama to the moon, if he hadn't hit the moon and had just gone into deep space with nothing to kick back off, he can't breathe in space. He would have died. I
think Saitama, he only pinches his nose because he thinks he can't breathe. He's not actually taking any of the negative effect of being in space. He's just oh fuck, I'm in space. Better plug my nose. Yeah, there's a good. Yeah, sorry, Harry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think I do agree with Ethan, but that might just be the fault of kind of wanting it to be something that's not. They're being sold on the show of this idea of someone that can kind of win in one punch, and it's going to be about exploring what it's like to live as that. And I think you've correctly identified that the ending is kind of a very good culmination of kind of meeting someone equal to him, and especially the stuff set up in episode 1. I think that dream in episode 1 is really fantastic as well. But I guess the problem for me is pretty much what we've identified throughout this podcast, that after episode 4 actually, it becomes about this kind of not tournament arc, but joining this kind of this organization, and it's more about the bureaucracy of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a less interesting show, I think. I really do like the ending. I really like episodes 1, 2, and 3. The first one when you meet Genos, I think is pretty good. I like that the chemistry they have, like you said, it's similar to the kind of Mob Reagan kind of chemistry in Mob Psycho, definitely.
Yeah, that's something I find interesting, is how similar that is, whilst also being quite different. In that, yeah, he's a useless mentor, but also in this version, he's a very powerful useless mentor. And I do like the joke how like he literally cannot, like his whole stuff was about improving his like body, which is organic. So
Yeah.
there is no advice he can give a cyborg.
Yes, that's what I wanted to talk about. Episode 3, which I think is comfortably the best episode of the show. So it starts off with like 5 minutes of setting up this tower of clones before he just punches it and destroys the entire tower, which is probably the hardest I laughed in the entire show. And then Saitama's kind of training regime, which is one of again really funny. I was really worried that the show was gonna like retcon it and he was gonna find out he actually had a source of power, but no. I love that he just goes on a 10k run and does like 100 sit-ups and crunches. It is really funny, that speech he gives, and it's quite motivational. Like from that point on, like to do like another weird thing while watching these shows. From episode 3 onwards, I watched the entire show while cycling on an exercise bike because I was like, I mean, it's very
became licenseless rider.
It's motivational, you know. I was like, damn, he really can just. He has the determination to beat everything in one punch. I'm like, why can't I cycle while I watch this show?
I like this theme so far, where we've got No Game, No Life. That's the shitting anime. You've got One Punch Man. That's the exercise anime.
Who construct the ultimate daily routine?
I built myself an entry plug full of LCL to watch Evangelion as well. That's going pretty well.
Oh man, yeah.
It's interesting the stuff you're saying, Harry, because it's like the complete opposite really to my thing, where I'm like I think it's because I don't feel they do much interesting with his kind of boredom with his powers. Like part of it is because it's hard to get motivated by someone's boredom.
I think it is there in the first and last episode. And I think I just find 2 and 3 really entertaining because of the kind of character dynamics. But yeah, I think we all agree on the fact that like the whole like bureaucracy stuff is, I mean, it is the show. That is the bulk of it, and I guess it kind of comes down to how much we like that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's not the stuff I usually like, and the bureaucracy side of it is sort of less, but it's it's the public perception thing. It's him battling against something that he can't automatically win at, which is a more interesting exploration I find of his powers. Almost is him when he in the situations where he can't use them or they're useless.
Mm.
And they do a really good job making you root for Saitama in that sense, where he's quite clearly the greatest hero that's ever lived, but every time he does something amazing for the city, he doesn't automatically jump up to the greatest hero each time. He goes up to the top of like rank C, and then he gets given the option to go to rank B, but at the bottom if he wants to, and that's how the process works. Like and then you're right, how the public perception changes from that. The episode where, actually, I think maybe my favourite episode is the one where he has to stop the meteor from destroying, from basically levelling out the entire city, or however, whatever area it is of this place, yeah. And he basically stops the entire population being killed. And then the thanks that he gets afterwards from the people that live there is ridiculous. People basically don't believe that he could have possibly done that because he's not a Class S hero, or they're just angry at him for having destroyed the whole city. But that was the best case scenario that could have happened. He saved lives, and it's really, really. I think that's one of the most unique aspects of the show for me. Just all of that stuff. I think you're right. The public perception, how that changes, purely depending on where people are in the ranking and things like that. I really really like that stuff. But I think for me, this it is right. Saitama basically has no weakness in terms of combat. But to me, the enjoyment that I get from the show more than anything is watching this massive monster basically walk around for 20 minutes saying that they are the greatest warrior that has ever lived. And then Saitama comes out of nowhere, hits them, they go down in one punch. I mean, the Deep Sea King
of the
is
show
basically two
has
episodes.
been boiled down to its component elements.
I know.
It's
And they
great.
do that. They do that trope so much, but each time I watch it, I just find it so enjoyable because the writing is so good at making these characters come across so obnoxious in how arrogant they are, that they think they are the greatest, and it's just so, you get so much satisfaction watching Saitama come around and just basically get them down in one punch. I mean, those two Deep Sea King episodes, for me, that was like an adrenaline rush the entire time because I just wanted him to get to the destination because I knew he'd be able to take the Deep Sea King down in one punch. He just had to get there, and that was like the main conflict for me, cycling. With that, I just wanted Moomin Rider to cycle faster and faster because I knew none of these heroes could do anything but Saitama. That's what the show should really be about. They should have a private jet waiting for Saitama any time something bad is going on, so they can just get him there as quickly as possible and solve the problem because he is unstoppable.
You would have enjoyed.
And that's where a lot of my satisfaction came.
You would have enjoyed the episode more, Ethan, if you had been cycling along with it. You know.
That would definitely would be
really
empowering.
only 2 episodes long that you've got the Deep Sea King. Because I felt like that went on for ages. I was not so interested by the Deep Sea King. I think by that point you already had so many of that character of like over the top villain that's so sure of themselves. But I was very much feeling kind of done by the time he showed up, and then he just lingers for so long that he and I think it's also because around that point that's when they introduced like the worst character in the show, who's the
is that the telekinetic girl, the one with green hair?
No, the gay character.
Oh my god, yeah.
Oh, the
Who's the gay
Yeah,
character?
that's
pre-prisoner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Be
yeah,
honest.
The
yeah,
one
yeah,
who's
yeah.
they're,
I was surprised you didn't say the character who is just a black man, and that's his bit apparently.
Yeah, I can see why you think that's the worst character. I definitely understand that, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, it's because I don't know, it just there's an interesting space there for having a like high-ranking superhero who is a criminal, but they still have all of that kind of drive to go out and save people. And you know, there's an interesting space as well to have a gay superhero. Combining the two and having him as a sexual predator who just like the reason he seems to save people is because he like likes cute boys. It's oh my god, I hated it. It should burn in fire.
Yeah, it really it was very yikesy for sure.
Yeah.
It's definitely a turn.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, the fact that I couldn't get him straight away just tells you all you need to know about him, because he is memorable, but he's so memorable that I actually think I wiped him from my memory temporarily.
Or like it looped around.
Yeah, pretty much.
Interesting. Okay.
No, I look forward to when he's wiped from my memory.
He'll come back. I was actually quite sad when he shows up, right? He says like his bit is that he's like, yo, I've got this sweater that my boyfriend knitted for me, and as part of like flexing to defeat the monster, he destroys the sweater. I was actually sad for that moment, even though it's such like a fucking dumb bit. I was like, oh no. Anyway, but apart from that guy, I do think that there's a lot of I don't know, just interest in the show that comes from just like watching this entire fucking hero network of just like dozens of characters, you know, and like keeping like a really like rough mental list of like how like all of them actually shape up against each other, you know. And I think it's just kind of neat just like seeing two characters that like you haven't, you know, seen before get together and, you know, have their fight, or have a chance where they're like compared on relative terms, you know, in reference to both each other and then to the overwhelming power of fucking Saitama, which is funny. I like that. I like that element of the show. I think there's a weird like bookkeeping element of enjoyment of that. Like, it's him, a rank A character. Okay, let's see what he can do. You know, that's just me.
Yeah. Has anyone else got anything to add about the show?
It's a minor element of it, but I always really like the fact that no matter what's going on in One Punch Man, you can always trust that there'll be a really nice blue sky.
Mm-hmm.
I always really liked that about it.
Yeah, I think having a punch so strong it changes the weather is one of those tropes that's like, it's like the big villain stomps around for 20 minutes and then gets immediately destroyed. It's like, yeah, you could see it coming, but that doesn't mean it's not good every time.
Yeah, I feel like I did have more to say, but I think
we've been
I think we
efficient.
probably have talked about
Delayed
I think we
the
probably have
episode
talked about
too long.
everything. Yeah, I think we did. I mean, I know I finished the show like 3 weeks ago, maybe, but that's still too much time for me to remember individual plot points and I guess things that happen in individual episodes if they're not big parts of the show. I guess I do like the old man, the sensei. I like him. He's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of characters that are just like, this guy's strong. That's cool, you know. Which I guess is kind of like almost the joke of the show, you know, the fact that like there's all these characters that exist in reference to this overpowered guy who just could beat them easily, which I think is quite neat. But yeah, I think you know, Old Man Bang, you know, this old like wizened martial artist who you know has his fist of flowing water crushing rocks style, you know. There's a cool swordsman character. There's a lot of like there's a big Iron Man guy. I think I like that it's like a lot of I don't know, anime would like focus on sort of one method or style. They'd be like, okay, this is a martial arts themed show, right? So all our characters are strong based on how good they are at martial arts or psychic powers or, you know, some other thing, right? Magic, whatever it would be. They'd pick one thing and they would stick with it. But One Punch Man is like a really like kitchen sink type show, which I really like. It's like fuck it, put a martial artist and a cyborg, an Iron Man, and a guy who is just wearing a tank top in there, you know, with like a guy who's just wearing a tank top who has like a legion of like other tank top wearing dude bros that are also his hero sidekicks, you know. I just like that. I like that they're throwing just anything at the wall. It's like it's very eclectic, you know. It's very out there, which I quite like.
I hear you.
But yeah, I also like Speed of Sound Sonic, the ninja, who makes Saitama his sworn enemy and keeps fucking up spectacularly whenever he tries to meet him.
I forgot there was a character called Sonic.
Speed of
Yeah, me
sound,
too.
Sonic.
Man.
God. Sonic Man.
You know, I think it would be a
He's
better
back.
show if it was Sonic Man instead of Speed of Sound Sonic.
Sonic Man. Can you remember the names of the couple in that game? And there's like a really neat detail
Moldy.
where they're together. Moldy, yeah. And what was the name of the other character?
That?
Because she's called Moldy. Moldy.
I think Harry. We don't regularly talk about this, just for the record. But Harry has mentioned Moldy since we played the game back in sixth form. So I'm not surprised that he does remember.
It's one of the
what
all-time
character's called.
great names. Moldy.
And then, but what was the name of the woman? Can you
I
not
can't remember. I'll Google it if someone keeps talking about One Punch Man.
Gotta keep up on our Sonic 06 lore.
So anyway, One Punch Man. He is named Saitama. He can punch really hard. I've ran out things to say. I would be surprised if you didn't notice, Ethan, the phrase that I stole, which I love so much from One Punch Man, which is, you know, like the fact that this show is so much about just reintroducing like villains who go about on their 20-minute spree of I'm the baddest, I'm the biggest motherfucker in town. And Saitama, his phrase, when he's hearing like one of the backstory spiels, he's like, look, 20 words or less, you know, which is where it's from. When I first said it to you, however long ago, to get you to not spend 1,000 words or whatever you were trying to say, I was quoting the great, you know. It's a good phrase.
And
good
see,
phrase.
I thought when I saw that in One Punch Man, I thought the creators were quoting you. That was the first thing that came to my head. But no, you are right. Actually, that reminded me of another really funny, I guess, running joke that happens, which is when villains are explaining their backstory, and then Saitama just doesn't give a shit and just wants them to stop talking so he can fight them, because that does happen fairly often.
I know. It's so fucking. I love. Again, as Jono said, he got me a shirt, Jono, of the face Saitama does, when he's fighting Boros. Boros' line of like, "At last, the armor that seals my immense power has been broken. I can now release all my energy." In this like fucking glowy effect, it's like glowing, like blowing rubble anywhere. And it's just cut into Saitama with this like dopey, like shaded, just blank expression, just not caring. You know, it's lovely. It's really just like. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. I think earlier I said that his line there was no, but I think it's just okay. Is his line?
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, okay.
It's like okay. Just
see.
Yeah. It was nice reaching that episode and that moment of being like, yes, that was the reference I was making with that shirt. I knew it was a good moment.
Yeah, it is great.
Tony, when I'm watching One Punch Man, I can. It's very, very clear to see that when they have moments like that, it's obviously like a tongue-in-cheek joke, or it's some kind of reference to just the way that anime creates stories, or I guess the stories that you often see in anime about people who can't be beaten, like the Jesus anime, I guess. And so I understand that, and I can see the satire 100%. But I still don't see I still don't think it's that in not the Thin Red Line. What was that called? Red Line, just Red Line. In Red Line with
Funky Boy,
the big boy, Funky Boy. Yeah, see, that to me feels like it's indulging.
I think
that is common in anime.
I do understand that
something that's critiquing.
But I think it's more. I think it can be both. You know, I think definitely indulgent is a good way to put even some of the things in One Punch Man, because
yeah, I suppose.
Even though I don't think that
say it's very indulgent.
Yeah, because I do think that like the crux of the show being based around like fucking every show's about these long, you know, like action like power ups with the main character yelling for 4 minutes to achieve their next level of power, which is real. Um, that it's like, okay, look, we're just making a show where the main guy beats the enemies in one punch, and it does end on like a very like, I don't want to call it traditional because I think there's a lot going on in the fight that is about in reference to the fact that Saitama is overpowered, but like the fact that the last episode is just a 12-minute long fight between Boros and Saitama, despite the crux of the show being like it should have been one and done. You know, I thought that's what I was here for. I was here for the one-two
The
punch,
1-1.
just the one punch. I see it.
Yeah. I hear you. I like
I still like it. Is my point. I think it balances being indulgent and irreverent with regards to genre trappings, which I like.
I do really like the part in episode the penultimate one or the one just before, or might even be the final one actually, where Saitama is just exploring the ship and it like carries on cutting to the guy who's like at the controls. He's like, oh yes, but they won't be able to beat this, or oh yes, but this door will stop him from going through. And then you see like the security recordings, and you just see Saitama's completely unfazed by anything that attacks him. I do like that, quite funny. I like how much people underestimate him just because he looks like such a powerless guy.
He's very dopey, but I do love it. I do love it. And there's, oh man, even in that bit, there's just a great moment where he's like, he says something to like, so which is the direction I should go in, and and the guy tells him to go right or whatever. He just has this like evil smile and then goes off in the other direction. And that's something great about Saitama, is the fact that he's so powerful. It gives him such like a happy-go-lucky attitude. Like the fact where he has the fight with Genos early on, where they're training, which is really, you know, it's one of those things. So I'm just like, not really doing anything right now. Might just go on YouTube, search Saitama versus Genos, and watch it for the 1,000th time. You know, it's like my fucking what was that film you watched, Ethan, where you watched that one guy getting shot?
Boys in the
Like a
Hood.
couple times.
Fuck off.
What? I'm saying.
I brought that on myself, but still, I don't want to be known as the guy who repeatedly watches Ricky getting shot on YouTube. Because that's not what I do.
With the
I just think it's a really well shot death from a really good film. That's all it is.
Okay. Well,
with
fair
the
enough.
One Punch Man versus Genos scene, because I had seen that before. I think probably either Tony showed it or was watching it at the same point that I was in a room or something like that, because I had seen that before.
You just osmosed it from me. As I've seen it so many times.
Yeah, so I knew that moment before.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things I've seen enough. Like there's moments from it that I can like quote like beat for beat. You know, I say quote. It's in Japanese. I know it's beat Japanese, but like the part where he's like, I need more speed, you know, and then he gets more speed by powering up. You know, I think Genos has a great design. I think he's like his earlier on. He's got this like black orange kind of color scheme that really pops, and like all his movements in that fight are just like, they have so much power behind them, yet Saitama is still able to just keep up with him effortlessly, and it's great. And at the end, he's like, "All right, I've won. Let's go get lunch," and he walks away with like this dopey fucking waddle towards let's go get udon. You know, it's like, oh man, I love him. I love him so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, Harry, did you find out what the other name was?
It begins with a P. I'm sure it begins with a P. I have a memory of it being Mouldy and someone whose name begins
It's
with
been
a
an
P.
odyssey, but no, there's just no information about this piece of shit game on the internet.
Who would have thought that
Um,
Sonic 06 hasn't been fully, I don't know,
Documented.
archived?
I read through a list of the kind of side quests, and some of them are really funny. So there's Pele the dog. I don't know if you remember Pele.
Pele the dog, yeah, of course.
Yes.
I remember all the side quests, Harry. You got Aristotle and his boxes. that
There's
he
the
wants
great
you to
one where
count.
he's like, you talk to someone, he's like, I hope you can find the captain. And then there's a load screen for like 1 minute. And then he's like, see if you know who the captain is. And there's another load screen. And then you talk to him, he's like, yes, I was the captain. That's another load. Oh no, then it's a Sonic like, yes, S rank. And then that's another load screen. And he
That's how
comes-
you become an S-rank hero.
Like it's 5 minutes that could have been done in 5 seconds.
Well, the idea is that there's like 4 or 5 other soldiers
This is
in
just
the
a
area,
dumb
and you've got to go
fucking
ask
riddle.
them questions. You've got to ask them questions, and they'll say, "Oh, yes, the captain is not the one who's facing diagonally from me, but the other one, the one to the left of me, might be lying about his fact." And you've got to like piece together who the captain might be, but it's easy to just It's easy to just talk to the person who gave you the instructions in the first place for the puzzle, because he is the captain that you're meant to find. I think it's like it's meant to be presented as this great plot twist.
Yeah. You
The-
talk
the
to him
guy-
because you're like, oh, like I wanna know what he's gonna say when I talk to him.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, you've solved it. it's so
Yeah.
bad. God.
There's also the boys from Soliana. You've got to go and play hide and seek with like 6 or 7 boys.
Yeah, that
boys.
bit's horrible.
As Sonic.
Sonic
This
Man,
game.
Yeah.
obviously iconic.
Sonic Man's
game.
great.
Hate
You
yeah.
get that guy a ring for his like daughter getting married. He's like a baker or something. That's like the first one you do.
There's the guy who makes the shoes, I think. He makes the
Ah.
Lightspeed Dash.
Yeah.
And you have to
Yeah,
unlock
that
it.
sounds about right. I kind of remember that, yeah.
Shall we give scores to One Punch Man?
Okay.
Yeah, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Well, before we wrap up, I will say that I think it's really funny that there is so much like different types of media and so many different stories that are told in anime, and like looking at the 10 I have chosen so far, it's like 4 isekais, 2 shows by the same guy about a really powerful man destroying things. It's like I think I like that there's this weird element of symmetry with Animediate, where it's like shows can be bad and good for the exact same reason. That's what I wanted to get across by picking One Punch Man. It's a horseshoe theory. Things are both bad and good. Things are both a referential in-joke and also just playing them straight because it's cool.
Whereas what I wanted to do with my music podcast was show that all songs from the 90s are fantastic. That's what I wanted to try.
Where you
and
at?
do.
Well, you weren't rising. You weren't crawling out of the mud, Ethan. You didn't have your training arc. You started off being powerful. You're the arrogant guy that is walking around like, haha, I am music mates. Look at me. Ooh, never mind. And whereas we've been on the fucking grind since day one with Asterisk War, with Hanoka, with Mars of Destruction, just putting in the hours, increasing our power level until the day where we could strike you down.
Killed Ethan.
Oh, you should not have mentioned Hanoka and Mars of Destruction in the same sentence like that.
It's Tony's version of a punch.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Anyway,
Right. So Tony, One Punch Man. Is it
I think
a
I think
10
it-
then?
I think it is still a 10, despite not having rewatched it. I think it mostly just comes down to the fact that it balances having a very entertaining cast with like great spots of humor that are then just lead into these amazing fight scenes that I will watch again and again. The music, slaps. The opening's great. There's honestly, like, I want to say not much else like it, despite the fact that it is in fact a parody of everything else that exists in the genre. But I don't know. I just like the large cast. The characters are all great and lovable. There's even some stuff that happens in season 2 with the B characters. The two punch chumps as they're called. No one calls them that. That is fun. They introduce some new characters as well. But it's fun. Yeah, I really like it. I think it's very, very entertaining. I think it's a good short watch as well, being only more like 12 episodes. It's good. What do you guys think?
I'm happy to go next. First of all, Bakano is a 9. I've changed my mind. I think it's actually better than I gave it credit for. So there you go. It's a secret retcon in this
I'm
podcast.
gaining more power by the moment,
Yeah.
Ethan.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I don't agree with you on One Punch Man. I don't think it's as good as you've said. I think it's an entertaining show for sure. There's a lot of funny moments, a lot of like kind of good action scenes. But I guess it's kind of what I was saying earlier, that the stuff that really interested me was kind of in the first episode and appeared at the end. I liked kind of where it started, and then it kind of just became, I don't know, it kind of just became about bureaucracy, I guess, and I guess that was kind of like entertaining-ish, but it's not really what I'd signed up for, It kind of took some of the steam away, in the same way that I think Mob Psycho kind of got worse towards the end, when they kind of had that like 4 or 5 episode arc about entering the facility and stuff. I didn't really find that stuff as entertaining, but I think they're probably on a similar level in terms of quality. I think I'd be quicker to watch the second season of Mob Psycho than I would One Punch Man.
You're lucky that the second season of Mob Psycho is really good.
I think I'll give it a 7.
Right,
yeah, it was not the kind of masterpiece that I kind of hoped it would be, but it was a very entertaining show, and I think Bakano is really good. So I forgive One Punch Man being sandwiched in between it, I guess.
Okay, Jono or Ethan.
I'll step in next. Yeah, so my feeling is that this is weaker than Mob Psycho. I think I found it more compelling. Mob Psycho than this. But One Punch Man, it has got a unique, fairly unique conceit, and has some interesting ideas that I feel it doesn't fully explore. And for me, not all of the comedy moments land, and it has got an incredibly yikes character. But yeah, I think I'll give it a 6. I think my problem potentially is that much like Saitama has got bored because he can one punch everything, I have got bored of these sorts of slightly ironic parodies of usual things. I have overseen Rick and Morty and all of those.
Jono's IQ is too high for me to beat. He's predicting my every move. How will I beat him?
Yes. Much like
well,
I have. I am bored of this genre.
All right, Ethan, come on.
Wait, what did Jonathan give it?
He gave it a 6. He gave it a 6.
Okay, all right. So I had a lot of fun with this season. I actually really enjoyed watching it, and it's very, very infrequent for me to watch anime on this channel where I want to go and watch the next episode, where I don't feel like it's a chore to actually watch the show, basically, where even if we weren't doing the podcast, I would have happily finished it either way. And even though I agree with Jonathan on like pretty much most of his points, the most important thing for me where it kind of falls down a little bit is I don't think it goes deep enough in exploring. exploring what it felt like it was setting up in the first episode,
No, fair
basically. The mentality of what it means to be someone like that. But I will admit that for a character who technically can't be beaten, it was very, very fun to watch, and I felt stakes while I was watching it, and I was always drawn in and invested. So I'll give it an 8 out of 10.
Thank you. All right, well, that leaves us at the end of Animediate. But what's this? My fucking power armor is crumbling. My ancient sealed technique. I'm sorry, Master. I have to go all out just this once. There is, in fact, one more show to watch in the final Animediate episode, where we will be doing Neon Genesis Evangelion. Hope you're all excited.
We've never talked about that on the podcast, have we,
am.
Tony?
We haven't. Finally, it's the Neon Genesis VA11 or Hall A double B. My ultimate attack.
God, could you imagine?
Yes, I'm hyped. All right. Well, we'll see you next time.
We're doing the film though, right? As well as the
at the end.
And we're doing Neon Genesis Evangelion True Squared.
Or
right?
Death
Or
True
whatever
2.
What are you talking about?
Death True 2. That's it. Not
What is
Not
this?
True.
Death True 2
Death
is
True 2?
the recap film. It's the true form of Death Rebirth, Tony.
Death True 2.
It's the one of the worst names of a film of all time. But
Tony, you know of this, right? You do
I
know what
literally
this is.
don't know.
It's just a hurricane.
I watched
of
the
words.
Neon Genesis Evangelion for the first time and missed an episode.
fucking good
I
episode.
don't know what Death True 2 is. Well,
Well, the time for that will be later.
Well, I'm taking over this. This is my episode. I'm sorry, Tony.
yeah.
This episode belongs to me now.
Easy. Harry's my secret weapon to defeat Music Mates. He is my apprentice that I've been training for years. Alright, well, we'll see you
All right.
next
Goodbye.
time.
Thank you for listening.